Hi, Layla. So I have quite a few things for us to go through today. All of your stuff looks awesome. You had a great practice week. Actually, we'll start there. Forgive me if I'm a little scattered because there's so many things. I want to make sure I get them all, but I can only talk so fast. So here we go. First thing for this week, there's actually going to be a practice competition for the next 3 weeks. So the competition starts today. It's going to go for the next 3 weeks of September, and then on the last Friday this month, you'll bring, I'm going to send you a practice log, and you're going to bring that log back to me, and then I'll figure out winners over that weekend, the first weekend in October. So it's similar, I'm trying to think, I believe we've done a similar competition in the past. What we're going to basically do is you'll see on your log, there's a square for each day that the competition runs, starting with today, and there's different categories. So your first category is going to be for theory and technique. All you have to do is keep track of your practice minutes. So theory obviously is more of a one and done type of thing, and I'm not sure. Oh, look at that. Oh, I remember. Okay. Thought I was losing it, but I did actually do this on purpose. Okay, so let me backtrack. Oh boy. All right, so for the theory, I know that we are working currently on our sight reading pages, right? But I believe we are almost done with them. Since we're not going to do a sight reading exercise in our lesson time today, we'll just take care of that next week. Chances are that we will have some theory assignments either next week or the following week. So whenever we do have theory, you will keep track of the minutes that it takes you to do your theory. And we'll just combine that category with technique, because definitely for the 3 weeks we'll have technique to be working on too. So, okay, that makes sense. I totally second guessed myself for a second there. So no theory for this week, but when we do have theory, that's where your minutes will go. Your next category is going to be for Hanon and for your compositions. So we are going to start a new Hanon exercise for this week. I know we haven't had it. We took a little break. I think it was only a week off from Hanon. But we'll start a new Hanon today. And then anytime you spend working on composing, so I have a feeling you might rack up some minutes here in this category, but anytime you spend working on new composing, or if you are practicing your old compositions like end of summer, that would count in this category. Or if you're working on like one of our new composition prompts for the week, that would go in this category. If you decide you have nothing else to do and you want to try and notate more of your end of summer piece in your book, that would count in this category. So anything that has to do with composing, all of that time counts, whether or not I assigned it to you specifically or not, okay? Let's see. So then your next category is songs. And I have a feeling even with the composition, this will probably be the bulk of your practice minutes, just because we have a couple of songs that we're working on and it usually tends to take a little bit longer. Now, again, I could be wrong. You could be a composing machine and do it for 2 hours a day, in which case you would get a lot of practice minutes that way. So it's really just up to you and where you choose to spend your time. And then the last category is just for reviewing old pieces and anything that you play just for fun. So you can kind of, I mean, it's up to you. You have some options. The for fun part of that feels a little similar to just kind of composing just as you figure stuff out, you know? So you can kind of choose where you want those minutes to go. I bet they could probably go either place. It's really just your call, okay? The important thing is that you keep track of the minutes. So this is more to help me know where does most of your practice time go during the week. I'm not gonna be like checking you on anything. It's just a good way to figure out where are the minutes going, you know? So that way we know if we do want to try and spend a little more time in a certain area, or maybe even a little less time in a certain area, it kind of gives us more insight there. So those are your 4 categories. Now you'll notice on your practice log, the categories are there every day for the next 3 weeks. I do not expect you to practice every day of the next 3 weeks, okay? If you do, awesome. But our goal here is going to be the same as always, which is to try and practice more days than not. And so it's really up to you. Again, obviously, the more days you practice, the more you boost your chances of winning. And the top 3 students with the most minutes are going to win prize for next month. I'm not sure what the prizes are going to be yet. So far, the most requested prizes have been either gift cards or cookies. So if you want to weigh in next week, you let me know what prizes you prefer. But those appear to be the winners so far. So that's pretty much it for the competition. You'll just keep track of your practice minutes, whatever you're able to do. You can use a stopwatch or you can just watch the clock, whatever's kind of easier for you. And the only thing you don't want to do is not really pay attention and then kind of guess. You don't want to lose minutes either, okay? So do your best with that. We can check that out together next week if you'd like, or if you have any questions about it. But you don't actually have to bring it back to me until the last Friday of this month. Okay, so we already talked about the theory, now that I remembered what our plan was going to be. Let's see. And then for end of summer, obviously we're not going to notate it together for today, which is totally fine. We'll just take a week off from that and jump back into doing that next week. And that brings me, I know I'm talking an awful lot at the beginning here. I apologize. Like I said, I had a lot of stuff I wanted to cover with you today. So for the composition piece. Okay, so remember I said I was going to keep you posted on possible competitions for composing. So the Silver State competition, I wish they had this category when I was growing up because I did Silver State every year, but they didn't then and they do now. So they now have a composition category. So if you are interested, that might be kind of a fun thing to do. You could actually compete with your own compositions against other students with their compositions. Might be kind of a fun experience. So you can think about that. If that's something you might be interested in doing, just let me know. The Silver State competition this year is running the first weekend of November. So it's kind of interesting with the timeline too, because our Halloween recital is going to be the weekend before that, right? The last weekend of October. So if you wanted to do an original composition for our recital, you could. And then the following weekend, if you wanted to do it and see if you could maybe like win a prize in a competition, you would just do the same thing for Silver State. So it's kind of interesting because they are right back to back, but if you have something ready for our recital, you already have something ready. So that's kind of something to consider too. You wouldn't really have to put in any extra work. If you were already planning on doing original music for the recital, then you're pretty much covered. So if you'd be interested, let me know. You absolutely do not have to do it. It's just if you would like to do it, if that's something that sounds interesting and like it might be a fun experience to you, then we can absolutely move forward with it, because we would have to turn in a copy of your music. So it wouldn't have to be the end of summer piece. If you want, it could be a totally different piece, but we would want to make sure that we're preparing pretty much now, so that we have it notated in time to get you signed up for the competition. Okay, so that is that. Let's see, let's go on to actually some stuff that you played for me. Okay, so let's do our arpeggios. Arpeggios, what did I wrote great. Perfect. Okay, so yeah, you did a great job. I think we're pretty much set on those. I think on the left hand coming down, at one point you used 1, 3, 4 instead of 1, 2, 3, which you can do. It's not, horribly incorrect. It just makes your life a little bit trickier, but you figured it out. You managed it well, and then you went right back to 1, 2, 3 all the rest of the way down. So nice job there. You did it the hard way, and then you're like, no, I don't like it. I want to go back to the easy way. So good work. I think we can move on from that for this week. The next piece of technique that we're going to do, you don't actually have the page yet, so I'm going to email it to you along with your practice log for the competition. And so the next thing is going to be a 2-octave scale for the key of D major. We're going to do our D scale for 2 octaves, which I think is actually kind of a fun one. We have 2 sharps for the key of D, F sharp and C sharp, and it can actually kind of help you remember where to cross over and under a little bit because of where the sharps are placed. So I'm going to demo it for you. The nice thing is it's the same fingering as most of our other major scales have been so far, except for F. F is the oddball, right? So let's see, let me double check where you're going to be able to see perfect. Okay, so we'll go from here to here. All right, so for D major, F sharp and C sharp is what we're looking for. We're gonna start with 1, 2, 3, cross under, and then under on D. Under again. Coming down, it's gonna be 3 over on F sharp and 4 over on C sharp. So you can see it kind of helps you a little bit because for right hand at least, you're gonna cross under after you play a black key every time, right? After I play my F sharp, I cross under. I play my C sharp, I cross under. Okay, so that's kind of helpful. Coming down, I reach my thumb obviously, but I'm only gonna cross over to a sharp. So here it's over to F sharp. Now I'm gonna cross over again to C sharp, and then cross over to F sharp. So like I said, it's kind of a convenient one. It kind of helps you remember what you have to do just because of where the sharps are placed. And, oh, and you can see me down here. Perfect. Okay, so for this one, for the left hand is not quite as helpful there with the sharps, but that's okay. It's the same left hand fingering that we've used for all of our other scales so far. So left hand is going to play all 5 fingers coming up, and then it's going to be 3 over, 4 over, 3 over as we run out of fingers, okay? So that looks like this. Over on A, then on D, and then again on A. Ta-da! Okay, so what I'll do is I will send you that page. Like I said, you'll have the printout of all of your notes for the 2 octaves going up and 2 octaves going down, as well as all of your finger numbers. So if you get a little stuck or you're not quite sure if you're doing it right, you will have that there to help you out. Let's start that hands alone. If you get to a point where you're feeling pretty comfortable with how the scales are looking, it's a new key, but like I said, it's pretty familiar fingering. So chances are you'll probably feel comfortable with that sooner rather than later. So when you would like to, if you want to try that hands together, go for it. And of course, it's an option too. If you'd rather wait and do that here in person next week, we can do that as well. Okay, totally up to you. Let's see. A magic game. Good job on the ending. Okay, so we've got the whole thing now. I'm gonna go ahead and open it up so I'm not trying to recollect things. And get them wrong. So let's see, what else did I write here? We've got the whole thing. Yes, I already said that. Your dynamics on this all the way through are killer already. So you're doing an excellent job paying attention to that. That's something that a lot of people, I think, have trouble remembering to pay attention to. And I'm not entirely always sure why, but because it ends up getting boring to me if everything is the same volume all the time. But with this piece especially, I mean, you've just done such a good job with including your dynamics all the way through. It sounds really, really excellent. So I think we'll give it another week, and then we'll kind of dig more into our tempo changes a little bit in this piece. We're off to a good start with those. I don't really want to do much with that for this week. I do have a couple things I just want to double check with you for this week. So in measure 28, so this is at the top of the second page. Okay, I'm looking at this measure right here, and it's going to be at the left hand chord. So left hand, if we do measures 27 and 28, 27 we start with that B flat chord. You cannot see my hand. Hello. Okay, so we have the B flat chord in first inversion, right? D, F, B flat. And then on measure 28, remember we actually just move everything down a half step. So my D moves down to C sharp, my F moves down to E, and my B flat moves down to A. Some interesting chord building. Right? So I think what we're wanting to do is we're making G the top note, which gives us that interesting diminished chord. What's interesting is you may not have even caught it because your right hand also has the G, right? But instead, We want to leave the G only in the right hand because that left hand really does have A as the top note of the chord. So, little tiny thing there. I can't remember if we were doing it that way last week or not. So it may just have been a fluke, and if that's the case, that's no big deal. Even if it's not a fluke, if you've accidentally been practicing it like that, not a big deal either. So we just want to be aware of that this week. If you want to circle it or write an A on top of that chord just to help you remember as you're playing through it, no big deal as well. That section is coming along really nicely overall. The other thing I want you to start doing this week is we're actually going to repeat that section. So measures 27, there's a very loud plane, measures 27 through 32. If you notice, we actually have double repeat signs, and that doesn't mean we repeat it more than we normally would. It just means that we're only going to repeat this one little section rather than go back to the beginning and repeat the whole thing up to that point. So your repeat starts here with the backwards repeat sign, and then when you get to here, let's make sure I'm doing it right. Yep, okay. When you get to here, then you'll go back and repeat these, how many is that? 6 measures. Good thing I checked, I was gonna say 7. You'll repeat those 6 measures again, and then you'll go on to our A section that comes back with our lovely extra soft dynamics there. So I think that was it. Let me double check. Yes, and I had a note about your dynamics, which I've already raved to you about. So we are looking great there. I think that's pretty much it for this piece for this week. We're gonna keep getting more comfortable with that newer section, hands together. Throw in that repeat, hey, that'll help, right? If you start doing it twice instead of once every time you go through the piece. But that might be a good place to do a little extra practice this week too, just so that it's, again, making more familiar the unfamiliar part, right? Or at least the more uncomfortable part, the part that's not quite as ready to go as the rest of it. But this is coming along great. I'm really happy with your progress on this week. So next thing is prehistoric processional. This one's coming along great too. You really did a great job on, let's see, I'm gonna mess up the measure numbers, I'm sure, but the kind of the middle section, the newer part. So we haven't had that for very long. So that would be, so measures 7 through 10-ish, that section. Way better this week, good work on that. So I think we are definitely ready to go on. My only note here was, yay, going on. Good. That's helpful. Okay, so I did want to explain what the left hand is going to be doing a little bit here. For the most part, I think you're going to be pretty okay to check out some of the reading on your own. We'll use it as a little bit of a sight reading exercise for this week. And it'll be a little different from how we do the sight reading exercises from the theory book in your lesson time, of course. But since we're not doing that today, we'll just kind of factor that in a little bit to your practice this week. So I'm going to have you actually read through the parts by yourself, and then knowing, of course, if you get really stuck or confused, you can always do a couple of things, right? You can take a break, you can look it up, a recording on YouTube or something like that. You can ask your mom for some help because she is more than able to help you. So a lot of different things you can try. If you do happen to get stuck, I think you'll probably do pretty well with this though. So I'm gonna have you start reading, let's see, where did we stop? I think we stopped at measure 15 because that's where it changes again. So from measure 15, we're gonna go all the way, I'm gonna show you on here too. Ignore my ice maker. Lots of distractions today. Okay, so we're gonna go all the way up to here. This is actually the first beat of measure 26. And you can see we kind of have this section that looks like it all kind of goes together for both hands, right? We have this octave, single note, octave pattern for right hand. Left hand also kind of has something that looks like kind of a group of notes. So we're gonna stop right at the rest here, okay? We'll go all the way through beat 1, but you don't have to do all of measure 26 over here. We'll save that, okay? So that's as much as we're gonna do. And let's see, let me make sure I'm not fibbing, that right hand looks okay. I think the only thing I need to clarify with you on this is the octaves for right hand. So this was an octave for right hand to measure 17. And you can see, yes, it's an octave, but that lower note is in parentheses. That's assuming if you can't stretch physically the octave, that you don't have to play the octave or somehow injure yourself in order to do it. You could just play the top note as a modification. I think you'll be fine with that. So unless I'm totally blanking, I'm pretty sure you can stretch an octave. So we'll go ahead and include the octaves there. You'll just kind of ignore the parentheses. Okay, that's why they're there. Let's see, left hand. Okay, so left hand actually starts pretty familiar. It'll change a little bit at the end of measure 18. You are gonna have an 8 VA marking here. So just make sure that you're remembering what 8 VA does and how it changes whether it's on top of a note or below a note, because that changes the direction you're gonna move, right? After that, if you notice, on measures 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23, we have a lot of clef changes here. You have two clef changes per measure, and it's actually going to be a crossover section, which is going to be pretty fun, but it looks kind of intense on the page. So what that does is I'm going to start for you right at measure, let's see, what is that? 19. Okay, so measure 19, you start with this low F C here, and then it switches to treble clef, and you're going all the way up here, okay? Your right hand, meanwhile, is underneath here. So you're doing F and C, C and F, and then back down, okay? So that's kind of the motion that you're gonna end up with. Here, we cross over, back to bass clef, cross over, let go. I forgot, there's flats, yes there are. Okay, so that's kind of the motion that you're going through for that whole little middle section there on those measures. And then you've got a lot of ledger lines after that. So I'm being so sneaky today, I know. I'm not going to give you any specific strategies to use to figure out your ledger line notes. I bet you can work it out though if you think of some other ways that we have figured out tricky ledger line notes in the past, okay? So think about it a little bit and see what you can come up with, okay? Okay, looking good on the rest of this song. I love it. We really haven't had much in the way of dynamic changes yet, so we're again gonna kind of table that for right now. The newer section, we are gonna have some different dynamics than what we've had so far. So we'll cover our notes and our rhythms first, and then take a look at dynamics in the future. Looking good there. Okay, so our composition prompt from last time was the theme of fairies and using the E minor pentascale, and I love what you came up with. I also actually love how short it is, because if you think about fairies as a topic, they don't tend to hang around like a really long time. They're kind of flighty, right? So I actually thought that fit the song itself and the theme really, really well. And I love how you used a higher register too, because it gives it more of that kind of magical feel. You know, fairies are not like that kind of thing. At least I'm not sure I want to meet the fairy that's the song for. So anyway, I love what you came up with for that. I think we're good to go on that little prompt. A new prompt for this week, you have an option. So your new theme is going to be either sunrise or sunset. You get to pick which one you want to write a piece about. It can be your official title, or it can just be the theme that gets you started on what comes to mind if you're trying to compose for that idea. Either way is fine. The only thing I want you to make sure that you do is include pedal, which I didn't think would be that much of a stretch. You usually tend to include pedal on your compositions where it makes sense to have pedal anyway, but definitely for this particular prompt, we want to make sure that we're using pedal in a way that helps the song and that kind of makes it better, and it's not just there to be there. You know what I mean? So find something where if it didn't have the pedal, it would just not really work. And because of the pedal, it makes it feel much more like sunrise or sunset. It really contributes to the overall feel of the piece, okay? So we'll give that a try. Last thing, I said we're gonna do a new hand, and we are. We're gonna do number 10 for this week. I think you'll probably have, again, no major issues with this. Every time I say that, of course, if you happen to have an issue, or if it's just like, I don't know why, this is just not coming together for me today, that's totally okay. I'm going off of what the general trend is for you, and generally you're sort of a hand and wizard, so I think more likely than not you won't have any issues with this. I want you to go over the pattern on your own this week. I will leave it up to you how much you want to do. If you want to just do the first page and do the ascending pattern, that's fine. If you get bored with that pretty quick and you want to come back down as well and just knock it all out in 1 week, that's fine too. I'll leave it up to you when you want to put hands together, or if you even want to do hands alone at all. Maybe you just start it together. I don't know, whatever floats your boat. And this is actually kind of a fun one because it's going to prepare you for trills. Trills are pretty fun. So a trill is essentially just going back and forth between 2 notes. They're generally a half step or a whole step apart, and it's really fast. So it's really fun to do once you feel comfortable with the actual execution. And this exercise is really good for helping to prepare you for trills. So you'll kind of notice it's easier to go up for your right hand because the trill pattern, the trill portion of it, is between fingers 2 and 3. And that's the fingers that we use most often for a trill anyway. But going up for left hand, it's fingers 3 and 4. And the 4th finger does not tend to like to move very quickly or flexibly or do things as easily as the other fingers do. So you might notice that it's a little bit more clumsy or awkward at first. For your left hand, that's fine. We would expect that. Coming down, it's gonna switch. It'll be the opposite. So it might be a little bit harder for your right hand because now right hand has that pattern with 3 and 4. And then left hand coming down might breathe a little sigh of relief because it's gonna be fingers 2 and 3 for that trill pattern, okay? I think that is about everything. So, whew, way to hang in there for this very long lesson video. If you have any questions or anything, just have your mom let me know this week, but I'll send you your practice log and your D scale instructions, and you should be all good to go for this week. All right, I am so excited to start voice with you next time. I can't wait. It's gonna be so much fun, and we'll have extra time for the next couple of weeks for that. So I hope you are feeling back to 100% so soon, and I will see you next week.